Senior congressional reporter for The Washington Post, former Florida Democratic Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy, and Jim Geraghty, senior political correspondent for the National Review and a contributing columnist at The Washington Post. So, Rhonda, if Kevin McCarthy had one kind of card in his pocket here coming back from recess to play with his conference, it was this impeachment inquiry startup. What did he get for that card?
I think right now he got a pacified caucus where it looks like for right now they're okay. And as your reporter said, they seem to be falling in line with him right now. How long that will last, I think, is the question we're all asking on the Hill, right? Especially when it comes to, you know, any of those moderate or folks in the middle who are concerned about being reelected in the next House races. They're the ones that are probably going to, you know, speak, at least behind closed doors, about their concerns about this. But right now, he at least has a conference that seems okay about what he did yesterday.
About what he did yesterday, but he also had a spending bill fall apart today that they were trying to bring to the floor. How much does the High Wire Act get more complicated for him as we approach the end of this month?
It gets very complicated because we are working with a deadline, September 30th, for the shutdown, the potential shutdown. And from what we saw today and what we're hearing, there really isn't a very true path to not shutting down the government, which is incredibly scary. And that's not really what's being talked about, as we've all been talking about the potential impeachment. But that does also overshadow the work of Kevin McCarthy and the decisions he's going to have to make in the next few weeks. But it's going to get messy. I think this is really going to be a messy 3 weeks.
Overshadowing,
and beyond.
Overshadowing the sausage making may be part of the point here, too. And to that point, Jim, I mean, everybody we talked to kind of denied the idea that there's politics in the timing of this. But this has very much the flavor of it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck. It's probably a duck. I mean, Matt Rosedale came right out and said it, saying he finds it very convenient that this comes out the week they're returning to Washington, and it's supposed to be focusing on these appropriations bills. What do you make of the timing of this? It's not like there was some, you know, thunderclap of new evidence over the recess.
House Republicans had a very nice, good thing going, right? You had this steady drip, drip, drip of, oh, look at this shady businessman that Hunter Biden was in deal. You know, you could have an endless, near endless amount of embarrassing stories causing a headache. Biden would insist, I don't want to talk about it, and not you know, and all that kind of stuff. And that would all be very good for the 2024 presidential election. The odds that you're going to find some smoking gun, you know, with a canceled check that says, for altering government policy made out to Joe Biden from shady Kazakhstani businessman, you're probably not going to find that. And the odds that you're going to get, you know, any House Democrat to vote to remove Biden, exceptionally unlikely. And you know it's going to go to the Senate, which is currently controlled by the Democrats. You know this isn't going anywhere. So the value was in the messaging of it. The actual starting the process then creates the point, well, now you're going to have a vote, and now it's going to be a bigger deal. I guess if you don't want people paying attention to appropriations, it's worthwhile, but it just seems like it's a rerun of what we saw a couple years ago.
It seems to me like there's a trade-off here for McCarthy. He wants the bigger spotlight on this inquiry now because only conservative media has been paying attention to the Hunter Biden stuff, but the rest of the country hasn't necessarily. But doesn't that also raise the stakes that if you don't find anything now in 2023, in 2024, you can't bring this issue up again after you have an impeachment inquiry and it lands with a thud, right?
No, I was going to say MoveOn.org will resurface and use the slogan again and say, this has all been done, all kind of stuff. If anything, I said, you want this slow, steady. You don't want anything rushed. You want to take your time with it right up until Election Day 2024.
So, Stephanie, how does that timing play out here? I mean, obviously, the longer this goes, in some ways, it's better for Republicans to kind of keep this impeachment inquiry in the headlines, but they also can't end it, right? If you end this without an impeachment, you've functionally acquitted the president.
Yeah, they have started something that they can't put back in the box, and I'm not sure it's good for them from a political perspective, because at some point they are going to, he may have spared his vulnerable members, the 18 who are in Biden districts. He may have spared them a vote this week on opening an inquiry, but he cannot spare them the vote of voting on impeachment. And so he better hope that this inquiry turns up a smoking gun. And from my experience with congressional investigations, we have limitations that the Department of Justice does not. And January 6th, I think we got a lot of information, but we had a lot of people who played hide the ball with us. And one recently, Navarro, just got convicted of contempt of Congress, and so maybe that will play into, you know, the willingness of the people to participate in this impeachment. But DOJ has incredible powers to get information in a criminal investigation and if they haven't turned something up, what are the chances that Congress is going to turn something up?
Well, and this is one of the things I've been thinking about, that most of these accusations had to deal with Joe Biden's time as vice president. There were 4 years of a Trump Justice Department that also didn't turn anything up on this when, they might have been motivated to do so. I want to ask you about precedent here when it comes to impeachments, because Kevin McCarthy has argued that Speaker Pelosi set the precedent of moving down this path without authorizing an inquiry, which is true in the strictest sense, that Speaker Pelosi started the first impeachment without a vote on an inquiry. I want to play a little bit of what he said about this and then ask you about it on the other side.
Nancy Pelosi changed the precedent of this House.
That was
This doesn't preclude from a... Nancy Pelosi changed the precedent of this House on September 24th. It was withheld and good enough for every single Democrat here. It was good enough for the judge. Why would it have to be different today?
Now, the House ultimately did end up voting on moving towards that first impeachment, and I pressed him on this some yesterday. Like, he's the speaker now. He can point to Pelosi as much as he wants, but he's in charge now. Do you worry about his argument there? I'm curious what you make of it, but the idea that House Democrats were so aggressive in oversight against the former president in the last couple of Congresses that this kind of comes around on you now in perhaps not entirely good faith ways from the Speaker and from House Republicans?
I think the American people have gotten used to the fact that hypocrisy is the name of the game in Washington.
What?
Right? Shocking, I know. But we are so divided and so partisan as a nation and as a Washington that you play by rules if it benefits your team. And then when the tables are turned, you argue against it. And that's what we're going to see as this impeachment unfolds. And it starts with his explanation for why he's using the impeachment inquiry without a vote. But it's going to go on through, whether it was the Ways and Means Committee, one of the 3 committees that are going to be a part of this inquiry. They're going to call for the current president's tax records under Section 6103, which, when I was on the Ways and Means Committee, we used that section to call for the former president's tax records and got excoriated by the sitting chair of the Ways and Means Committee. And let's see what he'll say. It will be hypocrisy.
It's going to be fascinating. I got to talk about the other big political story of the day, which is Mitt Romney hanging it up, says he's not going to run for re-election. Rhonda, talk to me about Mitt Romney, the senator, and his last act, if indeed this is his last act in American politics.
Well, he seems to suggest that it is his last act. He also pointed to his age, that he'd be in his 80s if he did run again and was reelected. But Mitt Romney has had a tough time in his Senate career. He was there in 2018. He was the only Republican to vote to impeach Donald Trump in the first impeachment over the Ukraine call. He also voted to impeach him again. He's been this standout, and he's just... It's been hard for him to work in that Senate. I think he's also reading some tea leaves back home with Utah, looking at his popularity wane there a little bit. It is a Republican-leaning state, of course, and if you followed last week, there was the special election with a GOP primary for a House seat there, and the Trump-supporting candidate won that. So I think Mitt Romney is very aware of the politics of the day. He mentioned in his letter today that it is hard to run in this environment when there's so much populism. And he was also very critical of the front runners on the GOP side for the presidential campaign, as well as Biden.
Jim, could Mitt Romney have won a Republican primary in Utah in this political climate?
It would have been really tough. I think the fact that it would be so difficult says more about us than it does about him. He will be missed. But I don't know, but I just find it just fascinatingly refreshing to see somebody in their 70s saying, yeah, okay, that's enough. I've done what I wanted to do. And I didn't even know you could leave a position in Washington before you were approaching 90 these days. It just seems like it's gotten out of style.
Yeah, I mean, Stephanie, what do you make of that? I mean, the age thing is such a part of what we talk about politically in this country, whether it's Mitch McConnell or President Biden or Speaker Pelosi announcing she's running for re-election. Romney made that explicit in his retirement video. He said, I don't want to be here in my 80s, and we need a new generation of leaders to solve these problems. Will that message be heard by the people who need to hear it in Washington?
One would hope so. I'm still somebody who believes in a citizen Congress, which means that ordinary people get a chance to serve, bring their experiences having lived a life as average Americans do to Washington and legislate from that place. This isn't supposed to be a lifetime career. I think that's not healthy for our democracy. And so he's demonstrating a level of self-awareness and a lack of ego that is rare in this town. And I have a lot of respect for him and what he's accomplished. I certainly hope that others take note, because the Democratic Party has a deep bench of really dynamic and interesting young leaders who are politely waiting their turn because they don't want to risk their career getting out too far in front of, say, a sitting president.
There you go. 76, old enough. We'll leave that there as our closing thought here. Thank you all to the panel for coming in for today.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.